Did you watch Perfume, Story of a Murderer?
I did.
What'd you think, Heath?
I am distressed that you have me watch it. Um, these are all the notes I have. That's it.
That's not a whole lot of notes, Heath.
Yeah, it's because I think a lot of it can be just kind of discussed, uh, jumping off of what I've written here. Um, I didn't know it was a period piece, so bummer. I'm not huge into period pieces. I asked you to get the Emma, the with Anya
Yeah.
Taylor Joy, and I still haven't watched it.
It's called Emma Period, to be honest. It's frustrating that every version of the name has the period.
Oh, is that a thing?
It, it is like even like all the sorting is like Emma Period. Like no other movie has punctuation. And for some reason this one does. Like
I need to watch it because I asked you to get it, and I really like Anya Taylor Joy, but plus it has Bill Nye in it. Not
naive.
Nye. Um, I also didn't know it had Ben Wishaw. Um, he's the Jean Baptiste.
Oh,
He is he's Q in the newer Bond movies.
oh. I honestly don't keep up with the new Bond movies. And I don't think I've seen him in anything but this, but I loved him in this. Loved this whole, I love this movie. Um,
Yeah, it has. Yeah, so it's very grotesque in the beginning,
yes.
and think that's why you were saying that it's hard to watch as Cell was in that sense. I was very happy I couldn't smell the fish uh, docks of Paris.
Dead
I like
rats.
yeah, and rats and the maggots and um, I liked John Hurt's narration.
Yeah, so
Um,
good.
it felt very storybooky in that sense because of the narration.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah,
One of the few times when so voiceover narration is like a big no-no because like anytime you're using voiceover narration, the question comes up, why did you make a movie when clearly you wanted to make a book?
which this
uh,
was a book or is a book.
right. So in this case it was to evoke the feelings of the kind of storybook fairy tale, um, to pull you out and make it less real and not more real.
Okay. Um, the sound design was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's because there's no way to really. I mean, you can't smell the movie,
This
and
is this is a two
like
and a half hour movie about scent that
yeah,
uses absolutely no smells.
right. And I think hearing uh, hearing I think to me is the closest sense to smell maybe because you can hear things and not really explain what it is that you're hearing, and you can smell things that you can't really explain what you're smelling. But typically, if you're looking at something, you can explain what it is
Right.
you're looking at. So it's an intangible sense. Keep wanting to say scent. Um, I almost turned it off when I found out he tried to distill a cat. I got very distressed. I was not happy. Um, it is an interesting film that I guess I shouldn't say devolves, because the end is absolutely it's a fairy tale
Yeah.
ending. I am almost convinced that Jean Baptiste is death himself or itself because everyone that he comes in contact with ends up dying. His mother gets hanged. The orphanage owner, her
She's mugged.
throat is slit right after she sells him. The fishmonger or the tanner is beaten to death right after he sells him.
He has an accident.
Oh, so
He slips.
Oh,
he slips and hits his head and then falls into the
that's
river.
what it was. Yeah. And then Dustin Hoffman's character, the perfumer,
Right.
is home, falls apart after it's seemingly kind of innocuous. Its shit falls down. He's like, oh, it always does that. And then right after Jean Baptiste leaves, it falls into the river.
Right.
And then all of the women that he's with die. And I thought, okay, the only people that got off are the ones from Grass, and then the guy that owns the shop or whatever, he ends up dying in the end as well. So,
right.
So I was like, maybe he's supposed to be deaf. I don't know. I tried to not miss anything in this, but I'm sure I did.
It's okay. I like the interpretation of Grunwy as death. I like that. I think that's pretty interesting. Maybe even an angel of death, because he's frequently compared to an angel. When one of the things you had noted, how sound is used. One of the really cool things is when he's sniffing a woman. Whenever that, or like he's getting a scent from a woman, there is an operatic female voice.
Okay.
Oh, I just got your reference. It took me a while. I was like, what the heck?
Why did he do that?
Of a woman, right? But whenever he's doing that, there is an operatic aria playing. And
yeah,
so,
I do recall that.
And like that was one of the ways that they have transitioned a lot of his sense of smell into something like we're not going to be able to smell a movie.
Right.
So they had to get that across some way. And I think the main way they did that was the music, the singer.
Mm-hmm.
The second way is light, which I think is really cool in this movie because this movie is really interesting in that if someone were to tell you the plot of this movie, you would be like, that sounds awful. This sounds like the worst movie. And like plot alone did not create this movie.
Right.
But like about halfway through the movie, my wife Brooke and I, we paused the movie and go, what's interesting is how terrible this plot is, but we are like in it. We are like, we're on board, buying the ticket for this movie because it's just done so well. And I think in a lot of ways that is one of the differences in our tastes is that a terrible plot produced wonderfully gets me. That's me. I'm all for it. If you've got a great production on your film, I'm there for it. You can lose, half-ass either, like if sound isn't great on a good movie, it's fine. If the cinematography isn't great on a good movie, it's fine. But, if you have everything else making up for it, to me, that's great. Whereas a lot of other people are like exclusively the script. That's the only thing that matters to them when they watch a movie. And,
Okay. I think I'm overly forgiving. Like if something can evoke like a visceral feeling in me, then I kind of look past many pitfalls. There's even movies that I loved as a kid, like Never Ending Story. I love it. It's not a great movie,
No.
And as I watch it as an adult, I'm like, oh, but I still love it. I still love it as much as I did as a kid. Um, you know, going back to what you said about using a narration in a movie, um, the one thing that, like, well, it was a little long, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood uses a Kurt Russell voiceover for literally no reason other than exposition,
Right.
to like give you, I guess, historical. Well, it's not even historical. It's just to give you time points so that you can follow um, the actual events that occurred that night as if they were real. So
Right.
like Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring, and they all ate at this place at this time, went back to the place at this time, and I think he does it deliberately to kind of put you more so in a historical aspect of what you think is about to occur.
Right.
So in that, like, I can write it off as, oh, that's why he's doing it, and be okay with it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm more apt to forgive things that would be seen as red flags or weird choices if I'm not invested in it.
To be honest, and I understand why Tarantino did it that way. That's it. Tarantino would like to homage what would essentially be how you would tell a true story in the time period of the 60s and 70s in Hollywood. Whereas to me, I'm not in the 60s and 70s in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm in the year 2020, and voiceover as exposition is to me saying, look, we didn't film this part of the movie. Like, you may as well like cut to a shot of the director going, okay, in this scene, what we're going to do is this kind of like, for all the good that voiceover does. Like, there isn't good voiceover unless it's for a purpose. Like, if you're trying to evoke something different. So in this case, Tarantino, sure, what he did it for a reason. I think John Hurt in Perfume was for a reason. I think it works. It's kind of like it almost feels like The Princess Bride, where you have a literal character reading a book, so the exposition can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's always explained away as him just reading to his grandson, like, oh, he's reading this because, or they're choosing to have this him audibly reading because to remind you, put you back in this, in the sense that he's reading the book to Fred Savage.
Right, but not only is he reading a book, the fact that he's reading a book explains away how ridiculous the story is.
Right.
Like, we would, I mean, without the voiceover and Fred Savage and his grandfather storyline, The Princess Bride it's Monty Python. You know, it's not heartfelt. It's slapstick. You know, it's Mel Brooks. And I think what made it work is that they were doing it sincere, but also going, it's like a kid's book, except we're doing it sincere. And the only way they could get that across was to have it literally be a kid's book.
Yeah, no, I think the absolute right word is sincere. That's the biggest difference between like Robin Hood Men in Tights and The Princess Bride. And I only use Robin Hood Men in Tights because it has the same lead.
Right. No,
so,
I get why.
Yeah, good. So you do Robin Hood, and you know the whole time that this is preposterous. You know, Richard Lewis has a mole that like migrates all over his face throughout the movie. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. But then on the other end, you have Princess Bride, where there are fantastic things happening, but everyone believes in what they're doing. Like, you have Chris Sarandon, who is an actually like a great villain. You have Christopher Guest, who is also a fantastic villain.
He was
Um,
remarkable in that.
yeah, and they're ruthless,
Hmm.
and they don't belong in a Mel Brooksian slapstick kind of,
Right. But
because there's
then,
no humor to him at
right.
all.
But that
The
was
fact that he
kind
has
of
six
what,
fingers doesn't matter.
yeah.
I mean that's kind of like oh that's a funny, but then it just becomes part of him. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It's not done to be like oh how many six-fingered gloves do I have and look at all the rings I wear, and like there'd be so many different jokes about
Yeah.
it in a Mel Brooks film, whereas in The Princess Bride, Rob Reiner has just said yeah six fingers, that's just a character trait of his. We're
Right.
done, move on.
I think that same sense. I mean, The Princess Bride also does have a lot of the Mel Brooks style jokes. I mean, think about the priest performing the wedding,
Right.
married. The and but we accept that because there is the sincerity of it. I think the exact same storybook quality, but doing it in a sincere way, applies to Perfume. The only difference is we're not going funny. They're being sincere about a story wherein a guy who smells real, is good at smelling things,
Yeah.
decides to go on a murder spree so that he can make the perfect perfume. Um, and they tell this story through visuals, through audio, and have to do it in such an extreme fashion because there's no way to do the story seriously. If you were to take away the fantasy elements of it, it would not work at all.
Yeah.
So like even the ending where you're sitting there going, this is really ridiculous and extreme, it doesn't work if it's not ridiculous and extreme.
Right.
But ridiculous and extreme but sincere. One of my favorite things is Grenouille is shown in shadows all the time. In fact, many times you'll see the background is this brightly lit scenery, and Grenouille is in front of it as a shadow, blocking you from seeing the light.
Okay.
And this is really apparent when we get to Alan Rickman's daughter, Laura, or Lara, however he calls her throughout, where every time she's around, lights are constantly being shown. There's always light. Alan Rickman presents her with candles and is like, you have to blow out the candles. But what's so amazing is he brings her these candles and asks her to blow them out, but ultimately his character throughout the movie is trying to preserve a light. And you notice the hedge maze scene where the count is trying to seduce Laura, and Grenouille picks up a rock. He throws it and breaks a light.
Mm-hmm.
Where the shadow creature is again putting out light. Sorry, I really love the way they did this movie. And that same technique is shown throughout as he's looking at women. The first woman, the woman selling the little yellow fruits,
Yeah.
has bright red hair, these bright yellow fruits. And as he's following her, everything is well lit up. But she can't see him because he gives off nothing but shadows. He has no smell,
Right.
as that goes. And all he does is extinguish light. When she dies, the yellow fruit woman, like her saturation goes down. She goes from being this robust yellow and red and bright colored with pink skin to being gray.
Mm-hmm.
And he struggles with that because I mean everything he's done so far has been trying to preserve essentially color. Um, and there are some really great things with color, especially red and yellows. Because obviously red is the color of Lara's hair. It's the color of the hair of the woman in his mind that at the beginning he's trying to preserve.
That haunts him for the rest of the film.
It
That
does.
first murder.
Well, it's not just the murder, it's the fact that he will never get that scent back.
Right.
He can't preserve it. It is gone. So even when he, is revealing his scent and going, this is this, it's still in his mind. One of the early conversations with Dustin Hoffman, where he's talking about a perfume is 3 chords. The first one is the head chord, like music, which of course the direct correlation with scent and music, just tells us, the audience, listen for the music because the music is going to describe the scents, which I love it. It's good filmmaking. And yes, we, the audience, are like, okay, I get it. You're telling us to listen because we can't smell. But yeah, that's great. And you're making it part of the narrative because he's obsessed with those chords too. Anyway, so his head chord, when he first unveils this, they get this awe. Oh my God, it's an angel. You have this moment of awe. And then the second one, the heart chord, which is what it's really about. It's the lasting impression. And when you think about what happens after the moment of awe, where everyone's together, everyone's doing all that stuff, that's the heart chord in effect. And then you have the aftermath, the bass chord, the lasting impression, where ultimately they are trying to forget that the scent ever existed, that this man ever existed. That's why they wind up killing this other guy, getting him to confess to the murders, because they need to pretend it didn't happen. There is, sorry, this movie could have been an entire TV show of brilliance, but it's a single film, so there's a lot of layers. The point you made about people dying when he's in their lives, it's not just when he's in their lives, it's the moment they are no longer of value to his story, they immediately die. And with the exception of Dustin Hoffman, they die as a direct result of their interaction with Granui. His mother isn't just killed as soon as he's born and she's no longer needed. She's killed because he's born. Right. The woman who sold him to the tanner, the orphanage matron, she's mugged for the very money that she got from selling him. The tanner who sells him gets drunk on the money he gets from selling him. And because he's drunk, he has an accident and dies. It's, the second they are out of his life, boom, they die. And I'm sorry. I'm jumping around all over the place. I know.
It works for me, but maybe not for people that haven't seen it. But I mean,
hopefully, if someone's watching this, they've seen the movie, because we're spoiling stuff. The murderer, he makes perfume. But the structure that Dustin Hoffman sets out for him of the different chords really does set up the structure of the movie as well. And so we're learning how to read even the narrative. And yeah, think about the 3 chords. The first impression, where Granui is learning his smell. The heart chord, where he's learning to make perfume. And then the bass chord, where he's actually putting his knowledge of preserving smells to use to make his perfume. The 3-act structure exists in the perfume, in the story, and every part of it. Even the execution of the ending is in 3 parts, 3 distinct sections of ending. And it all always carries this fairy tale aspect to it. Even at the very beginning, John Hurt is like, the reason you've not heard of him is because no matter what his legacy is, you can't keep a smell forever. Once that's gone, you can't recreate it. We're really good. We have artists who are good at drawing what they see. We have musicians who can create sound, even sound engineers who can, recreate the sound of a battlefield without a battlefield nearby, all of those things work, but scent is such a intangible thing.
Right.
To base a story on it is, it's hugely, it's ambitious for, a movie to say we're going to have a ridiculous plot that, if you were to read the blurb, no one's going to want to see that. But we're going to make it about smell, which we can't give the audience. And so, in my opinion, this movie puts a lot of trust on the audience. A lot of trust. And it pulls off everything it really goes for.
It wasn't reviewed very well, which I think might be because of the amount of trust it puts in the audience. I think reviewers are, I think they look down on their audience, or the audiences, thinking that they can't possibly discern what's going on. If I can't tell them what's going on, then they wouldn't know. So I think that might be part of the reason. Because it wasn't a bad movie. It really wasn't. I wouldn't have chosen to watch it on my own.
You wouldn't have picked it up off the shelf.
No, and I likely won't watch it again. But that goes for the Red Violin too. I probably will never watch it again, even though I enjoyed it. But yeah.
I think that's a pretty big compliment, because I love the Red Violin. And I would definitely put Perfume on the same shelf as the Red Violin.
Yeah. It felt similar only because I guess it was a similarly plotted, in the sense that Red Violin is, I guess, not so much about the sound, it is about the violin itself.
The structure.
Yeah. But being about scent, that being about sound.
Another cool thing in the movie is the decision making always results in a left turn. I really, really thought about this one all day today. Is early on in the film, going from Paris to Grasse, Grenouille has to choose between going right towards a village or left towards the mountains, and he chooses to go left. Later on, Laura is choosing to hide in the hedge maze, and she comes to an intersection, and she also chooses to go left. Then towards the end, when Alan Rickman and Laura are escaping, he asks, which direction did they go? He goes, they went north, which is right. And he's like, are you sure you don't mean south, which is left? And he's like, nope, definitely saw him going north. And he thinks about it for a second and again chooses to go left. I don't have anything for that. I think it's really cool. I wish I could put that with another part of the movie and go, okay, here's why they always turn left. But it's just one of those things I noticed, like the thing with the light, where it's like,
right.
part of me believes this is a story about creating art. Um, if you think of Grenouille being in love with scents rather than just wanting to preserve them or create them, like genuinely in love, when he's approaching the woman who sells fruit, he is in love, and that is his first love. And hurting her, killing that relationship, gives him the desire to want to preserve art, the art of smell.
Okay.
Think about it like any songwriter, Taylor Swift deciding to create art about her relationships. And Grenouille is trying to create a perfume, the smell of love, to give other people the feelings that if he were a musician, this would absolutely just be him writing a song that makes people fall in love and know what it feels like to fall in love. But instead, his medium is perfume. So at the end, we don't necessarily, like, we could imagine, instead of waving perfume around, instead he is singing the song that reminds people what it means to be in love.
Right.
But it also doesn't fix his relationships. Like, he has destroyed all of these women seeking to remember what love is. But to him, even when he's remembering what love is, it's a reminder that he destroyed it, that he has broken that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So this craft he has learned, that, I mean, because remember, he did not learn anything about perfume until he had killed her and decided that he wished he could preserve that. He had this metaphorical relationship and then decided he wanted to learn guitar so that he could write songs to convey the emotions he felt.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that.
I really like this movie. Sorry.
I don't really know what happened at the end. I don't know why he disappears.
They ate him, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's not super clear, but I'm pretty sure they ate him. Like, that was his goal, was to. Do you remember the story Dustin Hoffman tells about how they opened up the tomb and there was a perfume with 13 notes? They could only identify 12, but
Right.
when they opened it up, the entire world felt world peace for just a moment.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what he was going for at the end, why they would eat him. But I think it's also kind of his own doing. Like, he knows he's never going to get the woman back.
Yeah.
And so he's good with it. He knows it's going to happen.
Him ascending to heaven after
Maybe. Yeah.
having killed those people. It's a good one.
I don't think the murders. So the murders are really interesting because we don't see many of them.
Right.
We see him finding them and the aftermath, but nothing in between. And I think that's important because I don't think it's so much a murder as a collection, as losing these people is the price for having love. And maybe that is the message of the movie, is that you're going to lose people to find love, and you're going to get hurt. You're going to suffer loss. When you look at, Alan Rickman struggling to keep Laura alive,
Right.
he's not doing it because he's, selfish. He's doing it because he loves her and doesn't want to lose any more. We know he's lost his wife. We know that he has lost and that he doesn't want to lose more.
but ultimately everything he does to preserve her is in vain.
It's true. It's true. And not just because Granui is after her, but because she herself doesn't like the protection that she's being given. The Marquis's clothes. Blue is not a color we had seen a lot of in the movie up to that point. We have gray and white, which always represent something scentless, something without love. So at the very beginning, when he's learning to preserve flowers, he's preserving red flowers, red roses, because he can smell them. He's interested in them. By the end, the flowers are white because he's not interested in them anymore.
And it's funny because they go from red to yellow when he's in grass,
right?
Which is obviously a less vibrant color, and then to white,
as he is transitioning his interest. That's why the cat was white. When he tries to distill the cat and he can't get a smell out of it, it's white. It's
so is iron and copper, and they're not white, but I think you are correct in your assessment, sir.
Yeah, but the blue does not show up much in the movie until the Marquis, which is at the very end, or also the beginning, when he's in jail and the Marquis comes. He is wearing blue, and those are the clothes he wears.
And blue is the last thing that Jean-Baptiste wears.
Yeah, that's is blue. I would love to spend time and really dig into that, but I couldn't come up with anything for the significance of blue compared to the red to yellow to white. Yeah.
Well, what's Tom Twyker's his name? Ask the director.
Is he here?
Maybe. You never know. Maybe
Tom, if you're watching, I would love to know the significance of the Marquis' blue clothing. You paid very special attention to it, and I paid special attention to it. I just don't.
Kindred souls. He seems to be an interesting filmmaker as well. He did Run Lola
Run. Yeah.
Which is 3 distinct variations of one story.
Right. Color's a big one in Run Lola Run as well.
Then he worked with the Wachowskis, doing Sense8 and Cloud Atlas, actually.
He did Sense8?
He worked with the Wachowskis doing Sense8.
Okay. Interesting.
And like I said, Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
I think you knew that, though.
Cloud Atlas is one. I really should spend more time on it, but ultimately, I think there are so many better movies to spend my time really analyzing.
It's draining, man. I tried watching it for a second time a little while ago, and I was just like, ugh. I just couldn't do it.
Everything about the trailers was like, okay, there's a whole bunch of deep hidden meaning in this. And I watched it and I was like, I mean, there's meaning in it. How deep it is up for debate. But
pretty on the nose.
I do sometimes wonder on movies like that where it really does feel like they had something, if I just completely missed it. What was it? What was the one I had to watch twice? Secret of Nim. That's what it was. Where I was like, no, I missed something. There is deep stuff here. I did not get it. I think the same would be true of Cloud Atlas, though.
Maybe. Secret of Nim's a better movie. Well,
IMDb surveys say you are very much correct. Rotten Tomatoes agrees. All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. What do you got?
This movie that I have, I saw I actually think it's a superhero movie. Um, but it's not Marvel, it's not DC, and I might be alone in my assessment. Um, Stars Ryan Gosling,
Oh,
and
I already know what movie it is, and I agree. It's a superhero movie. 100%.
so I want you to watch Drive.
Yeah, I love Drive. Love it. It's 100% a superhero movie.
Good, we're on the same page.
Love it. He's got a superhero costume. He has a superpower, and he fights crime. That is a superhero.
Good. Yeah, I've tried to get people to watch it, and not famously, obviously, but my ex and I and her sister and husband went to go see it as a matinee. It's like the third time I had seen it, and we left, and they were very angry at me that I had them watch this movie.
You know the reason I watched it? So my brother was telling me, he was like, so apparently they had showings of this movie and people would demand their money back because they said they were advertised a movie like Fast and Furious, and this is nothing at all like Fast and Furious. This was slow and more artsy. And I was like,
Did you say slow and artsy?
slow and artsy? This sounds spectacular.
You mean it could be 2 hours, but they tacked another 45 minutes on? Let's do it. I'm just kidding.
I do not think this could have been 45 minutes shorter. I think Drive was the right speed.
Well,
I look
good.
forward to it. I've been
Oscar
wanting to
Isaac,
watch it again.
Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan. It's got a great cast, and I think it's Seeing Friends. Derek Seeing Friends that did it.
Ron Perlman's in this too, isn't it?
Yeah, and Al Brooks.
And Al Brooks.
Albert Brooks.
Right.
Yeah.
Playing the least Al Brooks you'll ever see.
Yep. And the most Ron Perlman you would ever see.
The most Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
So when we're going to watch it, I want you to like just randomly pause the movie at like really random times and go, would this make a good movie poster? Because I'll just about guarantee you that every single shot in this movie is worthy of being a movie poster.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Well done film. Whereas I think I really would have liked to see Ryan Gosling as a badass getaway driver movie. I think that could have been fun. I think this is a great story. It's a great film as well.